Okay, so we are starting with React today, and we will have React today on Monday and on Tuesday. So 3 days of React, and that should give us plenty of time to get a good introduction to it. The thing with React is that it is not difficult, but it can be difficult to get started with it. And so it's good to have a little help when you get started, so that you don't have those problems at the start, so you don't lose time on small problems that can be solved really fast. So if you have watched any, let me just ask first before we start, is there anybody in the class who has decided that they want to be front-end developers?
I have.
Who was that? Sorry, I missed that.
It's Lenny.
Lenny, okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yes.
Also Sajid, okay. So now we have 3.
I think it's always good to know front end as well, but I'm more interested in back end.
Yeah.
Front end is nice because we can see directly, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
Want to take time.
Yes, that is the. If you think it is a positive about front end, is that it's visual, so you can you get a more visual response than we had with C# in a console app. And from now on, everything that we will do, we have reached. So in the console, we learned C#. We just learned programming. So we created console applications to learn how to program. But now with the front end, we enter the web development phase of the course. So everything from now on will involve web development and the web browser. So everything we will do will be visual in the web browser from now on. So from now on, we will not work with the console apps anymore. Everything that we will present to the user will be in the web browser.
Okay.
Yeah. So after this, we will have an API course that is also web-based. And after that, we will have the MVC course, and that is what you will use to make your final project. So keep that in mind. So that what I wanted to see is how many are front-end developers or how many want to be front-end developers. Somebody mentioned the full stack. And this reflects, this is the same in every class. So we have 3 people out of, I don't know, 17 or 18. So it's a few. And this is the same in every class. And it reflects, I think it reflects the programmers in general. Most programmers want to be backend developers. And I am like that, and Mats is like that too, because we think that we don't want to deal with the graphics. That's why, that's the easy answer. So if you want to work with the front end a lot, then you have to like the graphics a bit, because you will work with that a lot. And as a full stack developer, you have to know both. And of course, you will gain experience with that, and you will become better and better. And then that makes you very valuable for an employer. So when you write, if you have a LinkedIn account and you write full stack developer on your profile, then the recruiters will be contacting you all the time, because that's what they are looking for, full stack developers. If you are a backend developer, sometimes you have to do front end, but usually it's something easy that you can fix fast. There are also front-end developers who are very focused on the graphics and who actually know very little programming, but they know how to make a website look very, very good. And that, I think, that is on the border to an artist, because I have seen very good front-end developers create really beautiful websites, and it was like an artist. It was very, very nice to see somebody who is very good at their job to create something very nice. So but that is the situation. So if you want to, if you are a front-end developer, I think you are more in demand, just because, as we see here, most of the class want to be backend developers. So and like I say, it's the same. This reflects how it is everywhere. So most of the programmers want to work with backend because they don't like CSS. So if you want to be a front-end developer, then I think the demand for you increases. You have better chances. But all of you have very good chances of finding jobs, because if you look at the Arbetsförmedlingen's job ads, you can see in some instances, you can see a company is looking for a developer, and then in parentheses, it says 50 jobs. So they're looking for 50 programmers at once. That is kind of an extreme, but there are many ads where they're looking for 3 developers or 10 developers. So just make sure you finish this course as well as you can, and make sure that the final project, which will be an MVC project, you can choose what you will do. So you can start thinking about it now. You will write a short description, and Mats and we will take a look at it, and then we will look to see if it is enough, if it's difficult enough. And basically what we want to see is that you are using entity framework, because that project will combine everything that we learn. So we want to see that you're using the database with entity framework. We want to see that you have at least 2 tables that are connected, that there's a relationship between them somehow. And that you have CRUD or crude, as Matt says, operations. And that it does something that makes sense. So make sure that you make that project well, and then you will put it on GitHub. And that is what you will show when you're looking for a job or internship. That is the project that you can show off to employers. And it is very important that they see what you can do practically. Because anybody can go to an interview and say that they know everything. They know all the languages and blah, blah, blah. But if you can show with a project that what you can do, then it means a lot. So, okay, so we are working with front end now, and that is also what React does. And React is a library that some people call it framework, but the people who create React, they don't like that. They want it to be called a library. So Angular is a framework, and then people always say JavaScript frameworks like Angular and React. So they bundle these two together. But the people who create React, they say that it is a library. It's not a big deal. You can call it what you want, as long as you know how to use it. And if you have started looking at some React courses on Pluralsight, then you have seen that all of them include Node.js. And that we will not use Node.js, we will make it simpler than that. Because to start a node project takes a little time, which means that every time we want to try something new, if you want to create a new project, then you have to create a new project, and it takes a little time. So what we will do is we will import React from a so-called CDN. So everybody should have an HTML file that we can work with, and I can paste can paste the code here in the chat. Just one moment. And so that everybody starts with the same file. So if you look in the chat, there is an HTML file that you should copy it and paste it in a file. And then you can open it in the browser. So I'm going to share my screen now. So here is the HTML, the simplest HTML file that you can have. And by the way, I am using Notepad++ as an editor, and I do that for web development stuff. So I use Visual Studio when I code in C#, and when I don't code in C#, when I do HTML or JavaScript or React, then I use Notepad++ because it's a little lighter. It fills the same function as Visual Studio Code, but I have been using Notepad++ for a long time, so I am sticking with it. So this is an HTML file, very simple. We have here in line 13 a div, and it has the attribute ID, and this has the value root. And in it, we have an H1 tag, and inside the H1 tag, we have the text starting React. And if you open it in the browser, then this is what you see.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, so what a React app does is that everything that happens in the React app happens inside this div. The div that has the ID root. So this is just, this file contains this H1 tag, but a React app will take this ID that has the value root, and then it will create the app inside this tag. And that is what we are going to look at. The root, the name root is, we can name it something else, but it is a convention that it is called root. So, but you can change that name. You can name it anything you want. In Angular, it's usually called app, and in React, it's called root. So, but it doesn't matter. But we are using root. So that is what you have to keep in mind, that React will grab or take hold of this tag, and then it will work inside it. So if we just look at a very simple JavaScript example that changes this root, the contents of root, it would look like this. The script tag, and here we create a variable, and I will just call it X for simplicity's sake. I will use document.getElement ID root. So now I have this this tag is stored in X. And now I can change X, like I can change what is inside X. So I can write X inner HTML is assigned the value H3 no. Will this work? We try. And we name it React Part 1. So now if we run this, if we reload the page in the browser, then we will see that the contents of root has changed. We are here. And we see that we have React Part 1 and the text is smaller because we have an H3 tag instead of H1. And the change, we see here that the starting React in the H1 tag, it's still there, but the browser replaces it. And when we reload the page, it does it so fast that we don't see it. We only see React Part 1. We don't see starting React at all. So this is what React does. This is what it does to start with. It grabs this div with the ID root, and then it changes what happens inside it. And inside this root, it builds the entire, it builds the entire app. So all the entire React app is inside this div. So now we will do this. This that we did with JavaScript, we will do it with React instead. So in order for us to have access to React, we have to import it. And we do that with these lines. Again, I will paste them in the chat because it's the easiest way. And after that, I will explain what it is. So take these lines, these three script tags, and paste them in the head in the head tag in your HTML file. So what are we doing here? We are importing React. And we are also importing something called React DOM, which is the second script. And so the first script is React itself. It's the main library that contains the React logic. The second line is called React DOM, as we see here, React DOM. And DOM stands for Domain Object Model. You don't have to remember this, but I'm just telling you. And but you have to remember DOM. You have to know the word DOM. And what it is it's basically these tags in the HTML file are all part of the DOM. So the web browser creates a tree structure out of the elements. And a tree structure is an example of a tree structure is the file system, where you have, if you have a PC with Windows, then you have C, which is the hard drive, and in C you have folders, and inside those folders you have files, or you have other folders, and those folders have their own files and their own folders. And when you look at the Explorer, when you look at your file system with Explorer, you see that all the folders are connected to C, and then all the folders inside those folders are connected to those folders. So it's like you can say that if you put C, if C is the root at the bottom, then all the folders and the files are branches, like in a tree. So that is a tree structure. And this is what the browser creates with this code. And in this case, it is the HTML tag that is the root, because that is the first and the last tag. So everything in an HTML file is inside the HTML tag. And that is why the HTML tag is the root. And it has two leaves. It has the head and the body. So you can see it as the HTML is the root, and then one branch goes, and there you have head, and then another branch goes, and there we have the body. And in case of the head, in this case, it has two branches of its own. One goes to meta, the meta tag, which has this car set that makes sure that our text looks as it should. And the second is title. And title actually has a leaf of its own. It has a branch with a leaf, and that leaf contains the text Hello React. And it's the same here with the body. Body has the div, in this case, body has two branches. One goes to this div, and the second goes to the script tag. And then div has its own branch, which goes to the h1 tag. So this is how the browser keeps track of this code. And we saw here that we have something called React DOM. So I just said that the browser has a DOM where it keeps track of all the elements. But here we see React DOM. And this is because React keeps a copy of this DOM that the browser has. And when you make a change to the interface, when you make a change on the web page, this change is created first on the React DOM. And when that change is finished, then it is copied over to the browser's DOM. And that is when you see it, because what you see in the web browser is the DOM of the browser. So this file that we are importing here in the second row, the task of this file is to render. It is, as we say in the React language, it's called render, which means play on the screen. So this file renders our React app on the screen. So we use the first file to create the app, and then we need the second file to show the app on the web page, in the browser. And here you can make changes. Here we are using this React DOM because this is the one that is used for web pages. But if you are creating an app, for example, for your phone, then you use another renderer, and that one is called React Native. So if you use React Native to render your code, then you get an app instead of a website. And you can also, there is also a renderer for virtual reality glasses. so that you can make if you think about those virtual reality glasses like Oculus, where you put them on and then it's like you're inside the screen, you can create apps or whatever you want to call them for those glasses with React. And then you use another renderer, which I don't know what it's called, but I think it has VR in its name for virtual reality. So you can use the core of React to create something, and then you can render it into different screens. And there are more renderers than this. This is just one more I remember is that you can create Windows apps. You can create a kind of window app that you can run on a Windows machine. So you can basically create a Windows program with React, but then you use that renderer to render the app. And then finally, we have a third file, which is called Babel.js. And Babel is a translator and it translates something called JSX to JavaScript. And we will look at the JSX probably this afternoon. And that's when we will see Babel being used. Because JSX looks a little different. And this stands for and basically it's you will write code that looks exactly like HTML in JavaScript. It is not 100% like HTML, but I would say it's 95% like HTML. And that is why we need Babel, because Babel will translate that code to JavaScript. And you will see, when we look at it, you will see why it is useful. We have these three lines. So these three lines, we have these three lines instead of using Node.js. Later, when you will use Node.js to create a React app, you will not need these lines, because then you will have React and the renderer and Babel inside the project. But we are using these lines just to get started fast. So we don't have to deal with Node.js. So, like we saw in this example, we have the root div, and we have that. We have it here in this file. So usually this div is empty because it doesn't need anything, because React will work with it. So as you saw in this example, when we changed the contents of this div, it went so fast that the browser did it so fast that we didn't even see starting React. So it is empty, this div. And take it from the start. So we see here, these are HTML elements, the div and the script and body and head, these are all HTML elements. And React has its own elements, which are called React elements. And we are going to create a React element and put it inside this root. So we start by creating the element. So I'll just create a variable and I will name it E for element. And I will use the React object, React dot, and I have access to this object thanks to these 3 lines that we are using. Or basically just the first line, but yeah, we need all 3. But because we import the first line, we have access to an object called React. And on this object, we can call the function create element. And this function takes 3 arguments. The first one is a string, and it wants to know what kind of element we want to create. So we want to create an H1, and then we just write H1 in the string as a string. The second argument is an object which contains the attributes of the element, like if we have ID or class or some other attribute. In this case, we are not going to use an attribute, so we will enter an empty object. And the last one is the contents, the text or whatever that will be displayed. And so this text will be text in React element. So now, as you can see, now we have the React element in this variable E. And as you can see, this is pure JavaScript. There is nothing new here. Yes, we are using an object called React that we don't have access to usually. We only have it now because we have imported it. But the code itself, the syntax and the logic, it's just JavaScript. It's pure JavaScript. There is nothing new here. It's that is one thing that the people who are developing React, they try to stick to this so that you can do as much as possible in React in just JavaScript. So you don't have to learn a bunch of new stuff. So now we have the element. And now what we want to do is we want to put it inside this root element. And we use the same, now we need this element, so we use the same function that I used in the previous example. So I create a new variable and I name it R for root, and I use the document object, document.get element by ID, and here we have root. And now we are using React DOM, which is the object that we get from the second import line, to put the element that we created into the root element on line 29. So that object is called React DOM. And the function we are calling is called render. And this this function takes two parameters. One of them is what you want to render, and the second is where you want to render it. So what we want to render is E, variable E that contains this React element that we just created. And where we want to render it is inside R, which is the root element. And this function takes care of that for us. So now I can open this page, or this, I can open this file in the web browser, and I should see text in a React element. So we can look here, we can look in the code and see that the root element is empty here in the HTML code. So it is the React code that puts this text into it. And we can use the inspector to look at the code. If I right-click on text and I choose inspect. And here we can see that inside the div element, we have an H1, inside the root element, we have an H1 element with a text in a React element. So this way of working is how you work with React. And to create an app, now we have the root element, and then we added something to it, and which is just text in this case. But this is where you create your app. So this is where you write your code. You replace this line with a bunch of other code for your app, and then you use these two lines to put the app inside the root element. So after lunch, we will take a look at something called components, which are things that you see on the screen. So what do you think about this far? How does it look?
Not so difficult.
Okay, good,
Quite easy.
good, good. Okay. So hopefully you will continue thinking that it's easy. And if you don't, then you have to say something. If you think that it's difficult, you have to say something. And then we will go over it again. But yeah, so far it's just pure JavaScript. It's nothing special. In the afternoon, we will look at components, and then we will look at JX, and that will be new for you, but hopefully not difficult.
Ernst, are you going to copy this and paste it in our code examples now?
Yes, I will. Or do you want to do it, or should I do it?
I don't think we are able to do it. If you
Okay,
copy,
okay. Okay,
it
I
will
will
be
do it.
yeah.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
You only use one render. Normally,
Yeah.
I should use different kind of elements and then render them once.
You will see this after lunch. You will put everything in the end. You always render one element, but that element contains all the other elements. So you will always only render one element. And that element contains, so you will, when you create your app, you will sit down and then you will think, what elements do I need? Or let's say components, okay? Because you will see after lunch that we will be working with components. So you will make a plan for your app and you will create its structure, and then you will decide, okay, what components do I need? And components are just things that you see on the screen. So then you look at what you want to show on the screen. You look at because the whole website, if you create a React app, then the entire website is your React app. So everything that you see in the web browser comes from your React app. So then you have to say, okay, what I need a logo, I need a search field, I need a menu, I need some pictures, and then you decide all those things are components, or different components. And in the end, all those components will end up in one single component. And then you render that component. And then that component renders all the rest. It's sections, yes. It's sections of the website, but it's called components. But it's sections. It's sections of what you see. Okay, so Continue with what you were doing. If you want to continue with React, feel free to do so on Pluralsight. But if you started studying something yesterday with JavaScript, for example, and you want to continue, then you can do that too. So this does not mean, just because we started with React, it doesn't mean that you must study React in these 3 days. You can study, you can stick to JavaScript so that you learn JavaScript really well. And then when you know JavaScript well, then it is much easier to learn React or Angular or whatever you want to learn. So see you at 1 o'clock.
See you. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.